So, a bit about myself. I would say I'm an incredibly enthusiastic person. I think friends and family would describe me as driven, especially in terms of working. I've been working since I was 14, 15 years old, so it's always just been a part of me, and I'd say I'm definitely very driven with that. In terms of hobbies and interests, I'm really into being active. I enjoy working out, whether it's at the gym or at home. I enjoy going for runs and getting out and about, as well as playing netball. I've always played netball. So I think, yeah, I'm just really into well-being, mind and body. I'm currently in my second year at college, and I'm completing an A-level in media as well as a BTEC in production arts management and one in business, which I think all come together to show that I'm quite a outgoing person, especially with the performing arts, but I've also got a lot of experience with kind of seeing administration and things like that with the business course. I'm currently on target to leave with high grades in all of them. I think I've put a lot of work into that, and yeah, I think I'm aiming high. I currently work at B&Q as a customer assistant, but I've previously worked in a pub for 3 and a bit years, yeah, kind of doing different roles. We all were quite hands on deck, so you'd all do a bit of front of house waiting, bar staff, as well as I also had experience working in the kitchen, so dealing with clients but also being able to communicate behind the scenes. So what do I look for in a job? I would say the main thing I look for is job satisfaction. So I like to feel a sense of achievement and like I'm actually doing something worthwhile, and that my job is actually doing something and contributing. I also really look for potential to grow further whenever I apply for a job. So particularly within this role, so I would like to start at this position and being in charge of this number of people, but in the years to come, how can I grow? How can I develop my career and myself? I think I really look for the opportunity to grow myself in a personal manner as well as professional. So just kind of increasing my customer attitudes and everything, and how to deal with people. I think I've already got great experience with that, but just there's always room to grow, and yeah, just always room to progress and develop my continuous professional development. So I think this job in particular interested me because it was combining the business aspect of my life as well as my well-being attitudes, due to it being in the leisure industry. So it just kind of combines how I'm quite a practical thinker with the leisure and everything, but I'm also really into well-being. I've also got a lot of experience in customer service. With every job I've had has been customer service based, whether dealing with them one-on-one or communicating with a team to provide the best service or product for them. So I think I'm very strong in customer service, and I think that would set me apart from other candidates you've potentially seen today. I think I've just got a lot of experience in that. So as I've just said, with experience, I'd say the relevant experience I have to the job would again be customer service and hospitality. I've got a lot of experience in dealing with customer complaints, per se. With working in the pub, it's if they've got certain dietary requirements or special needs they want required, say if it's a larger party, where are we going to put them, where are we going to fit them amongst all the other groups. So I think I've got a lot of experience with thinking on my feet, and yeah, having to make a decision on the spot that is best for the customer as well as all the customers around them and the staff, and just ensuring that everybody is happy and healthy and gets exactly what they wanted. So yeah, I've got a lot of experience with that. Say with working at B&Q, dealing with customer returns if a product isn't satisfactory, trying to find them something that's more appropriate for the job. So maybe asking questions about the project they're working on or anything. And I'd also say my business BTEC has given me a lot of experience with paperwork and administration, just an insight into that kind of thing. So in terms of a scenario, I would say there's been frequent times where we've had to be relied upon, especially me individually. So say with at the pub, whenever the landlords would go away, they'd often go on holiday throughout the summer months, just to get a break from it, I suppose. We would have to make important decisions by ourselves because there wasn't necessarily a team lead. It was kind of everyone was equal. We didn't really have like a head of front of house, head of kitchen, anything like that. It was kind of the landlords were very involved, so they would make most of the decisions. If you didn't know, you'd go to them. So whenever they went away, you kind of had to use your experience and your knowledge of being in that field to make the decisions for yourselves. So in terms of like whenever walk-ins would come in, but we'd had loads of book tables, like where can we fit them, you know, pacing them out time-wise so that the kitchen doesn't get too overloaded, and just making sure that communication is flowing between the two. As for working at a place like B&Q, obviously it's a major corporation, so there is a lot of pressure to meet weekly and monthly targets. Each week we have a target we want to meet with sales, and as a customer advisor, it can be little things like trying to upsell products. So if they're buying like a tin of paint, do you have the rollers, the mats, everything you need to go with it? Just thinking about little ways you can add like a few pounds here and there, because if a few extra pounds each sale like just amounts to way more than it did before. So it's always simple to do, and yeah, sometimes it might not work, but it always helps and adds up. And I'd say frequently as smaller senses, just things with providing like a higher level of customer care. I think as a customer assistant, you're heavily relied upon to provide the best care you can. So even if you're having a bad day, you can't let that known to the customer. So we would be in charge of just making sure that the customer receives everything they want and more, always delivering a bit more than they necessarily need. In terms of dealing with customer complaints, I'd say there have been several times. I think with working in the hospitality industry, you're always gonna get complaints. So things like with working at the pub, you know there's always going to be complaints about the products and how you can help them. So like if they don't like the food or something, just making sure that you try and find an alternative quickly so that the customer goes away happy and feeling like they've got a sense of satisfaction and that they'd come back, because you always want return customers. And I'd say with working at B&Q, you know, it's kind of a complaint. So if they'd have like a return product to bring back, whether it doesn't work or it's not the right fit or they just bought too many of them, just always making sure that you're polite and find the best alternative or just solution. So yeah, if they've got too many, just returning one of them, or if it wasn't the right fit, potentially asking someone from the department, if you aren't familiar with it yourself, to help them find that, so that they go away with the correct product feeling happy that they have been helped and you have, you know, helped them to find that. I would say one of my most relevant strengths in terms of this role would be how experienced I am with providing customer service and a strong level of care to the customers. Since I was 14, I've been in the customer service industry, and you know, hospitality was working in the pub. So I've since then, you know, 4 or 5 days a week I've been dealing with customers. So I've got countless experience with different circumstances and everything, and I think I've provided a high level of customer care since I began training. So I would say that's one of my main strengths, is just my mindset of going and giving 110% every time you're dealing with a customer. So pressures I've been under at work, I would say in terms of at work, currently with working at B&Q, obviously it's a very big leap going from a small village pub to a major corporation. So I think when I first began, there was a lot of pressure to meet kind of weekly targets and assure your managers and everyone around you that you were performing to the best level and that you were the right fit for the job and that they made the right decision. And I think whilst that sudden nervousness goes away, you never fully get rid of the pressure that you are under to meet weekly targets and everything. So yeah, just again, the simple things of upselling and adding products to customers' baskets, I think that's all you can really do. I'd say also just the pressure to please customers to the highest ability on a daily basis. I think that can feel quite scary sometimes if it's like a special ask or something, or if it's a really difficult circumstance. I think as long as you communicate with your team, you're bound to find an adequate response to the customer's issue, whether you can solve the problem by, say, getting them another product or anything. You know, if the product's wrong, just get them another one, or if that isn't an available option, suggesting an alternative that could be used. So I think in terms of seeing myself in, you know, 5-10 years, if I was successful in this job role, I would like to still be in this role because I could really see myself enjoying it, but potentially having developed that role slightly further. So I know how it's currently going to involve managing 4 part-time receptionists, so maybe growing that responsibility, being in charge of a larger team and just managing more staff and having more duties to account for. I think that could be one way of developing it. Obviously there are several others, or just expanding the services that we offer at that certain position. On a personal level, I would hope to be continuing to develop my continuous professional development and still having job satisfaction, still waking up every morning and having a drive to go to work and wanting to be there and enjoying myself, because I think if you haven't got that, then you're not going to be able to perform to the best of your ability in the role. So I'd say one of the main ways to expand the leisure industry in Exeter, especially in terms of Devon Sports Limited, would be to target a younger audience as well as kind of the family aspect, because inevitably they're going to be the ones that grow into the families, you know. So Exeter has an incredibly heavy student base in terms of the uni, the college in Exeter, South Devon College, everywhere. There's loads of students around. So I think by micro-targeting these younger audiences, I know you host like barbecue nights and quiz nights, which I think all young people are really into, but they might just not be aware of them. So I think hosting more of those and making them kind of seasonal, so obviously barbecue you're not going to do in winter, so kind of exploiting them at the seasonal times, hosting like pool parties maybe, just kind of themed events like that students all just thrive for, and making sure you've got a heavy social media presence, because that's where they're all about really. Maybe advertising through the uni, through the college. I think that would be a great way to expand, and it would increase the awareness of the business throughout those students, because word spreads quickly about them, you know, through social media. If they're all posting pictures and everything from the venue, then it will increase interest from other students. It could also spread word to their parents and everything, who may all want a membership in for the kind of more civilised things that students aren't getting up to. And it will also just bring more cash flow to the business if you just charge like a standard ticket price, and then everything on top of that, students will all be living for it. I think another way of the business expanding, once again, potentially targeting students, doesn't necessarily need to be them, could be running mobile classes. So going to places like colleges and universities, or as well as just younger schools, because they'll spread the word to the parents, and the parents will hear about it in the letters about it and everything, and they'll think, oh, Devon Sports Limited, maybe we'll go and check that out after their kids had a great time there. So this is a really easy way to get people invested in the business in a very short space of time. So if you're just kind of organising it through the workplace or the school or anything, you just have to organise it through them, and you reach so many people because they don't need to come to you. They don't see the effort of, whilst it is only 15 minutes out of Exeter, people might think like it's a day they've got to plan, as opposed to just coming into work or school and they've got this fitness class on their doorstep. So that's just a simple way of bringing them to you whilst you're going to them, because that will just appeal to them more if they don't have to do anything, you know? So once again, with dealing with dietary requirements, I've worked at a pub since I was 14, so countless times I've had to deal with special requests like halal meat. So it's just a matter of communicating between the kitchen and the customer to see what you can provide for them. Whether it might not be things on the menu, but especially with working in the smaller village pub, we were a little bit more lenient, and we could kind of come up with special meals that weren't potentially offered initially on the menu, to try and ensure that the customer has a great experience, and they know that we can specialise services for them so they can come back again. And that's what it's all about really, is getting repeat customers with a small business like that. You can't rely on people coming from out of towns here, there and everywhere every night, you know. You need the repeat customer and customers enjoying themselves. So just communicating and working to achieve the best solution for that customer. And yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So first one, just a little one. Do you have any current pension plans, like an in-house pension plan for your staff? Just what I'm curious about, if we can explore that. Another one would be, would you say there is a lot of room for growth within the company in this position? And if so, what would you say it is? Where could it lead to? And lastly, quite a serious one at the minute, how are you going about protecting your staff during the current coronavirus pandemic? Because obviously it's affecting like gyms and leisure centres majorly, so how are you protecting your staff in the long run as well as the short term at the minute? Right, thank you.